Hi and welcome. I'm Steve DeMasco, the Grand Master of Steve DeMasco Shaolin Studios. Just want to once again tell you that Shaolin, although I run a martial arts organization of what Shaolin means, the reason I call it the Shaolin Way is because Shaolin means small forest, and I've told you before that Shaolin is in a very small city, well actually nothing small in China, called Denfang. And Shaolin is actually a philosophy mostly of a Confucius philosophy, although the monks are Buddhist monks, but Buddhism has got a large philosophical tie to it of Chan Buddhism, which is a philosophical story behind it. So it's really a philosophy of how do you live your life and how life is precious and how to treat people with kindness. So that's why we call it the Shaolin Way. Confucius, there's a lot of Confucianism in the Buddhist religion, and that's why we call it the Shaolin Way. So a lot of what we talk about is about the quality of life of people, and that's why we call it the Shaolin Way. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Strength and Honor Foundation again. We're really kicking that off very strongly. We're going to have our first board of directors meeting in February, and our board of directors are all over the place. They're in Connecticut, they're in Massachusetts, they're in Pennsylvania, so they'll be coming in for a big board of directors meeting. It's really going to be taking off in 2016. As most of you know, we have opened up going into, I think, a second year in the Winchester, New Hampshire studio. Going into our second year of kids being trained in Winchester, by Sensei Jeff, and he has been volunteering his time. We've all volunteered there. My son Gianni, my wife Kelly, myself, but Jeff has put most of the time in. He teaches there on a regular basis 3 times a week. The class has changed to Monday, Friday, and Saturday now. And you pay either $79 a month or what you could afford. There's some people paying nothing and some people paying $40 a month. And again, all the money that goes into that studio goes back into just paying the utilities, the rent, and equipment for the kids and uniforms and t-shirts and things of that nature. Nobody's taking any money out of that at all. And it's helped a lot of kids. We have about, I think, 45, 50 kids in that program right now, and it's growing. And we have a bigger facility. We moved down the street to the Grange Hall, so we're no longer right at the corner there on that main street. So we're right down the street within walking distance. So we've literally tripled the space. So we have a lot more room for more kids. So if you're interested, you can call my school in Keene, 354-7850. And you can talk to Courtney or Mark or Jeff and ask about the times. The times haven't changed, so it's Monday, Friday, and Saturday are the classes. We hold 2 classes, one for little kids, one for teens. There's no adults. It goes from approximately 4, usually 5 to 17 years of age. It's just for kids. Jeff has put in a lot of time. He volunteers his time there. And we really appreciate it. The kids really like him a lot. And when I can get down there, I can. And talk to the kids. My wife goes down there, and Gianni, when he has time between sports and school, he starts college next year. Today I'm going to talk about, we are going to do some self-defense stuff today, but I want to talk about ADD and ADHD. A very important subject. The more I get called on and emailed about kids with ADD and ADHD and parents coming into our schools around the New England and Pennsylvania asking us about that. I really, really want to address this. And one other thing I want to say about this show really is not for children. So I want to make that very, very clear. The things I talk about are world events. I talk about terrorism. I talk about, as you can see on this show, and this goes on YouTube too. I talk about guns. I talk about rifles. I show defense for that kind of stuff. I talk about some of the stuff is graphic, and this is really not a show for children. So I want to make that very, very clear. I talk about events, world events that affect families right here in the Monadnock region and around the world. And this gets broadcasted worldwide. So again, this is not for children, and I want to make that very, very clear. This is for adults. So I just want to say that. So again, I want to talk about ADD and ADHD. We've been working in this field for a number of years. As you know, I have my graduate degree in behavioral psychology, And we've had many psychologists and psychiatrists that have referred kids to us. I don't want to explain that. I'm going to make that as simple as possible. First of all, I want to say that it was kind of labeled wrong. You know, they call it attention deficit disorder, and there are all levels of that, as we know. And in fact, that they're not an attention deficit. A kid with ADD or ADHD can tell are bouncing all over the room, as you know. They can tell you what's going on in a room, at anything that's going on in that room at any given time. As a matter of fact, you know, sometimes when you're listening to me talk, I'll bounce around myself. I have a touch of ADD. It was a lot worse when I was a kid. Often, that at around the age for an adult, it'll stop or slow down, depending on how severe it was as a child, somewhere around between 23, 24, 25 years old. The difference between ADD and ADHD is ADD is attention deficit disorder, okay, where it's not as bad. You know, they're bouncing around, they're not paying attention, they're looking at other things, and it's hard to keep their attention, especially in a classroom setting where there's a lot of kids or there's a lot of things that can distract them. As you know, attention deficit disorder hyperactivity is where they just cannot sit still, okay, where they're bouncing around, they're moving, they can't sit still. At any given time, they could just be sitting there and then boom, they're running around or they're grabbing some other kids. Some of them get very physical, and then there's all kinds of level. Let's talk about from 0 to 10. Okay, so ADD is the kids just like not paying attention. ADHD is they can get physical. They'll just start running all over the place and just very hyperactive. I'm really opposed to medication. There are some kids that it's just absolutely necessary. In schools, it's very, very difficult for teachers. I've lectured in schools to, thousands of teachers and educators all over the country. I've been in over 100 schools from here all the way to the Delta of Arkansas. I was a spokesperson on education, social and emotional learning, character education for the president, secretary of education, and this was a big issue for kids. And teachers, on trying to educate children. And it's hard for a teacher. You got a class of even 10 kids or 17 kids or 25 kids in a classroom, and you've got a child that has ADD or ADHD, and they're bouncing all over the place, and a teacher from, even preschool or kindergarten or any age group is trying to teach a class of any, a number of kids, and the kid is just not paying attention because they have this disorder. It's very, very, very difficult for a teacher to do this. So the first thing is they get diagnosed, and then they want to put them on medication. And as you know, there's a lot of ramifications. There's a lot of side effects with Ritalin for kids. It could anything from lethargic to depression to sometimes suicidal. It's just it's a terrible drug, but sometimes it's just it's necessary. And I'm going to tell you that a lot of people will try to will keep their kids off of it, and I don't blame you as a parent to not wanting to put your kids on these medications. And I'll tell you what the best thing for them is. It is our martial art classes, and I'll tell you why. Now, have you ever noticed, like, if you put a video game in front of these kids that have ADD or ADHD, that they're totally focused on a video game, or if they're watching television that has a lot of action in it that they're interested in, they can be totally focused on that. But, try to talk to a kid, or they're bouncing all over the place, or the teacher's trying to talk to them, or teaching a class, and they're all over the place. Well, let me tell you something. The video game, you would think, because they can stay focused on that would be a good thing for them. Well, it's not a good thing for them. It's just the opposite. It enhances the ADD or the ADHD, and I'll tell you why. Why is a karate class that can keep them focused, okay, good for them? And then again, I'll explain what part of the karate class is good for them and why some of it's good and what type of kid it's good for and what type of the class it's good for. Okay, because some kids cannot function in a group class, some kids can function in a semi-private class, and some kids, depending on the severity of the disorder, might have to be a one-on-one. And again, that's again depends on the severity of the disorder. The problem with the video game, if they're totally focused, we're just saying, oh, my kid can totally focus on a video game, is that it's constantly moving. Okay, it keeps them totally focused, but it's constantly changing, which means that their brain is doing this. The problem with ADD or ADHD is the neurons are bouncing back and forth into the brain. With a video game or a television show that's constantly moving, okay, those neurons are bouncing back and forth like a madman. Okay, it's crazed. So that's why it's keeping their attention. With a karate class, or a one-on-one or a one-on-3 or one-on-4, okay? All right, which meaning the karate instructor is either teaching them in a group class. That's the only way a group class would work is if they mildly have ADD. A karate instructor with 1-on-4, 1-on-6, or 1-on-3 would work if they had ADD and it was, say, a 5 or a 4 or 5. That could possibly work. If they're ADHD, it wouldn't work at all. We evaluate. When they come into our school, they take a couple of private lessons or one private lesson. When my instructors are trained, they have to be evaluated. And we can tell within 20 minutes of evaluating, 15 to 20 minutes to 30 minutes, what we have to do with that child, whether they could survive in a group class or they could survive in a semi-private class or they need one-on-one training. Our goal is when regardless of whether it's a semi-private or a private, is to be able to get them to be able to function in the group class. Why is it that we can do that and that will work for them, but yet a video game won't? Because the repetition of what we do is the instructor is animated enough. They're trained for this. They have to go through 2 years of training in addition to being a black belt in order to be able to learn how to handle these kids. Now, they're animated enough to keep their attention. So now we have their attention. The repetition of the same thing is what stops the neurons from bouncing back and forth at such speeds. So instead of the neurons bouncing back and forth like this, they're going like this. The brain gets focused. It comes back to center. It comes back to center. So every time the instructor sees that the child is losing eye contact, the instructor will get back into their face and move a little bit and get them back to focus. After a while, after a certain amount of time, and again, that will depend on the severity of the ADD or the ADHD, that's 0 to 10. After a while, the brain will get retrained. We have taken dozens and over, I've been doing this for 45 years, dozens, maybe hundreds, I don't know what the number is, of kids off of medication, never mind the kids that aren't on medication. We have a tremendous success rate. We have stories, we have letters. The Hartford Courant did an entire front page story on how successful my organization has been with taking kids off of medications that had ADD and ADHD. And does it sound like I'm promoting my organization? Absolutely. Why am I doing that? Because I'm in this business. I don't have to do this for a living. I lecture nationally all over the country. I'm an international author. I'm not bragging to you. I've done this business. I do this, and anybody that knows who I am knows I do this because I love the success of what we do, the lives we've been able to affect, the lives that we've changed, the success that we've had with children, kids with special needs. We deal with ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, compulsive disorders, separation anxiety disorders, okay, behavioral disorders. We deal with all of that. The other thing that parents think that, and I've seen psychologists say, well, you should have your child in organized sports. Well, all my kids have played organized sports. I played organized sports. My ADD was not severe. But I can tell you, even with the ADD that I had growing up as a child, it was very frustrating to me. Very frustrating, because there are too many things that distracted me. Unless you're very, very good, let's think about that. If there's a lot of kids on the field, you're playing basketball, you're playing baseball, you're playing football, okay, there's a lot of downtime in those games, depending on what position that you're playing. And there's a lot of things that can distract you. Now again, depending on the severity. For some kids that have ADD that's mild, that could be a very good thing. I'm not discouraging it. I'm just saying for all kids, for a lot of kids, depending on that 0 to 10, that won't work. And I'm sure some of you experienced that. It was recommended to play organized sports and it didn't work. What we do guarantees, if you stick with it long enough, it guarantees that it works because they've been trained. They've been trained to be able to teach them and bring them back to focus. And again, it might take one-on-one, depending on the severity. We had two brothers once. I won't tell you who they are. Obviously, I won't give names, but it was incredible. I remember Ma coming to me, And he had been trained. He went through that 2 years of training, and I was in the school at that time a lot, so I got to see this myself. And these two kids, they were within 1 year of each other, and they were taking a semi-private. It was just the two of them. And they had severe ADHD. They're black belts now, and they're doing great in life. They're older. And I just laugh because Mark, I'm not laughing at what happened. I'm laughing at how Mark came to me with it. And he said, I don't know what to do. He said, they were, because this was severe. These two kids were doing their basic and these key iron and they're punching. And out of nowhere, they're punching and they're doing a great job. Boom, the kid just turns to his brother, tackles him and starts biting him in the neck. And Mark had to separate him, and he came to me. He said he was like all flustered. I mean, 2 years of training is great. I've got 8 years of schooling, and I had to think about that one for a while. I mean, he was like he just didn't quite know what to do with that one. But the bottom line is, we stuck with those kids. They did great. They're black belts now. They're in college, and they're doing phenomenal. But I mean, it can get to that level. There's a lot of kids with ADD and ADHD. And I got to tell you something, even kids that don't have that, it's like a diabetic diet. If you even if you're not diabetic and you go on a diet that diabetics are supposed to be on, everybody would be incredibly healthy. We treat all kids the same. We teach all the same way, whether you're ADD or you're not ADD. We keep them focused. We bring them back to focus. All kids want to bounce all over the place. Our instructors are animated when their foot hits that floor, when they hit that dojo floor. That's what we call a workout area. Okay, it's showtime, and it's showtime because we have to compete with Nintendo. We have to compete with those games, those ridiculous. What do I got? 11 minutes left. We got to. I was playing this. I'm not very big on games, but I was playing. Some ridiculous. Well, I was playing. What was I playing? One of solitaire or something on yesterday on thing. And every time I play the game, I have to watch a commercial. And there was this commercial of a game. I forgot the name of the game. And it showed this family, like back in the Middle Ages, farmers, and there was all these farmers, and they were doing the hay and they were doing the cows, and this guy comes up. He looked like some sort of warrior, and he's yelling at them. And they were just talking, and then the warrior goes away, and he talks to his superior, and they all come back, and they start shooting arrows, and they kill all the farmers. And I knew the name of the game. I'm totally recognized the name. I'm forgetting the name now. And they kill the farmers, and they kill all the helpers, and the wife runs away. I mean, what kind of stuff is that? They didn't even have weapons. And I know, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the game. They killed everybody, and they didn't even fight back. I mean, and I know it's a very, very popular name because I've heard it a million times. I mean, this is what our kids are playing today. It's sickening. It's really sickening. Anyway, that's what I have to talk about ADD and ADHD. I think on the next show I might address, I have 10 minutes left. I might address oppositional defiance disorders. It's a very powerful subject. What I call that, in very technical terms, kids with a bad attitude. Okay, today, Jeff, come on up. First I'm going to talk about, there's a lot of martial arts schools. Am I in this camera, Rick? There are a lot of martial arts schools that do the 8-point blocking system. I got to tell you, we did the 8-point blocking system. I've been doing this for 45 years. For years. Why? Because that's what we were told to do. But even when we did the 8-point blocking system, okay, I never did the 8-point blocking system like everybody else did the 8-point blocking system. The 8-point blocking system was done like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let me explain what that means, what we're doing here. Jeff throws a front punch to me. Now that punch is going to come that way, or it's going to come this way. The 8-point blocking system, if you're watching what I'm doing, now throw it slow, Jeff, because the way I was taught to block, which I never did that way, okay, is that I'm going to show you the block, which 99, not 99, I'm going to say the majority of martial artists in the country, and if you're not doing this, great, don't anybody get insulted, but I got to tell you, we have 350 schools, 1 million students, and this is the way we were taught to block. I didn't do it this way because I was a boxer first. And if I had blocked this way, I would have never won a fight. All right? So do it slow because you're going to hit me. Okay, watch. Throw it slow. 1. Now, you see what I just did? This is the 1 block. So I'm going to make a circle, okay, as this Jeff is going to throw a front punch at my face. So I'm going to do all of this as that punch is coming at me. Then the other block is, that was 1, 2. The 3 block is the same thing. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to come way out here by my ear, and I'm going to then block as Jeff is punching me in the face. Okay, what that's called, what I used to call that is the Italian face block. Okay, so that's the one Italian face block. This is the other Italian face block, and then this is the upper block. Okay, we'd assume that this was a club coming at me, and this is going to go like this. So I'm going to start from down here, and then get hit in the head with the Italian block for the club. And then I'm going to block the kick to the groin, which means I got kicked in the groin and then blocked the leg. So I'm joking around with that because everybody did this. So when I saw that, because in boxing, throw the punch, okay? No, throw the straight punch. We did this. This is the way we boxed and we blocked in boxing. Boom, boom. We would block, slip, and hit, okay? So what I did for the blocks to alter the 8-point blocking system, because I knew that I wasn't going to make a circle, so that I would not alter what everybody else was doing, so that everybody was always mad at me in the system anyway. Okay, out of the 350 schools, go slow, is I would do the 8-point blocking system, but I would come up from here and then go out like that. So I did 1, 2, straight punch, Jeff. 3, 4 over the head, 5. So I would come straight up, 6, 7, 8. So it was still the same thing I do now. So basically it was this, but I would go 1, 2, and I would do it 8 times, but they were all like this. So technically, and this is why it takes, and why do I want to block like that? Because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So I don't want to, I'm not saying that you can't. Well, once again, I see people block like this, you know, they'll block like this, or if Jeff comes in with a punch, they'll block like this, okay, and they'll put their first inclination is to block, is come up with your arms like this, and that's, you know, that's what you do. Same thing when you go to fall. What's the first thing you do is fall, is you put your hands like this. That's why people hurt themselves. When you're supposed to fall, you're supposed to just collapse your body so that the distance between your body and the ground is like this. But people do this, and that's why they get hurt. They break their wrists, they break their elbows. That's why, again, as a martial artist, okay, to be good at anything with us, with any school, you have to train, okay? You have to retrain the brain. So it takes a lot of training and confidence that if a punch is coming in fast, that you're going to come straight up and time that. Otherwise, you will be doing the Italian face block. I can say that because I am Italian, okay? Is that, okay, go ahead. Wait. I don't know when Jeff's going to punch. Go ahead, anytime, go. See, is you got to time that, just like that, all right? So that was straight up, then bang, and then you come in and you do whatever technique you want. So Jeff comes in, boom, see? So when I block, go. And this is the distance they're going to come at. They're not going to punch you from here. Okay? They're going to come, wait a minute, slow down. They're going to come from here anytime. Boom. You see, they're going to punch you from here. I got 4 minutes? Okay. A kick is probably, now when somebody comes at me from a distance, if they're just coming at me to rush me, go ahead, Jeff. I use this kick. Now this kick is a great kick. I think you can see this in the camera. Go ahead, Jeff. Boom. Now, the problem with that kick is you have to be trained to do that kick. I love that kick. Why? Because the timing has to be really, really good. See, if you notice when I throw a kick, I don't do this. I come in, come at me. Boom. My body comes forward. That's a really, really good kick. And once you get trained to use that kick, it's really hard for that person because the more they come at you, and where I land that kick, and again, I'm not kicking with my foot this way, I'm kicking with my foot this way. So my foot is sideways, which means my ability to be able to catch his leg is I got a wide distance, as opposed to just trying to catch his knee, I come in sideways. All right, I really like that kick. So let's talk about the block again. All right, go ahead. There's your block. Now, what I call this the danger zone in here. All right, in here is what I call the danger zone, because he's got a left. And most people aren't going to keep their hands like this. If Jeff was going to fight, go ahead, left, go ahead, the other hand, boom. This is here. So you have to be able to, this is a really bad area to be. Ultimately, as a martial artist, I want to be here. So when somebody punches at me, I'm always going to try to do this. I'm always going to be here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit him, take his balance out. Nice technique. I always go to the throat. That's what I do. I like the throat. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. You see, because now, if you can see where this is, I'm here. You see how off balance he is? So from here, I can take, how much time I got? 3 minutes? I can take 2 minutes. I can take Jeff down very, very easily. And the other thing I can do with Jeff is, well, with anybody, and from here, if you notice, the mistake that people make on the throat is they go in like this. See my hand? I don't go in like this. I go in like this. I go in like this. Because here, this is, the joint is here. The joint bends like this. I go in straight in, and then I grab the throat. I got to tell you, again, you have to be a trained martial artist for that. I've had to use that with people that were intoxicated and that were on substances, and the pain is so intense, even when you're on a substance or alcohol, that it has definitely immobilized them, even being on a substance. So it's a great technique, but again, you have to really be, again, you have to train with somebody that knows exactly how to do that type of technique. So let me show you something on the inside. So the punch comes in, it's punch, so again, 2. So now the guy throws a double punch. Okay, from here, again, I'm going to never use I will never use my fist. Why? Same reason when we box. I guess that came from boxing, because when you hit somebody with your fist, the pressure is going to go to the next joint, and that's right here. If I'm going to strike, it's always going to be with my palm, because now the next joint is right here. So it would be here, strike, throat, ribs, groin. So it would look like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That would be my inside technique. I'm done. Steve DeMasco, this is Jeff. Thank you for watching.